Thank you. It is always a special honor to be here and to be with you, Madam Mariam Rajavi. I admire you. I have been watching you both from afar and close up for many years now, and it is always a pleasure to be with you, but also to see so many faces around the table that are old and familiar to me, but also, more importantly, the new faces that I'm seeing. Because I think the importance of this movement is to bring in new people and instruct them. And of course, thank you to the brave people of Ashraf 3. I've been with you there in Ashraf, and I wish you well again. As I listened to Madam Rajavi speak today, it was interesting because I was thinking how long I have known of this movement, really since almost from the beginning. And then to hear you talk about 30 years ago and how long it's been. And I think when you have a resistance movement and it lasts not months or years, but decades, it's very possible to get discouraged, to say, when will this ever end? When will we achieve our goals? And so it's interesting to me to look back on the last year, because last year, when we were gathered together, we had in Syria a regime, a friend of the mullahs, Bashar al-Assad, who had killed more than 600,000 of his own people, who had displaced millions around the world, who was helping support the mullahs, and the mullahs in return helping support international terrorism that resulted in the massacre by Hamas on October 7th, the massacre of people in Ukraine who are being bombed by Iranian drones by the day. And so, you know, I look back and I say, well, where is Bashar al-Assad today? He has been driven from Syria with his tail between his legs and been embraced by the butcher of Moscow, Vladimir Putin. And I thought to myself, you know, thinking about that, Bashar al-Assad was not the first of the Syrian dictators. His father preceded him, and that struggle went on for decades. And so I look to the struggle that you were involved in, and I see hope. Maybe next year it will be the mullahs with their tails between their legs going to whatever dictator will take them. But that can only happen not by dictates from leaders outside. It is not going to come, you know, President Trump made some remark about bombing Iran to smithereens if they wouldn't give another nuclear deal. That is not the way change is going to come to Iran. It is going to come from the people of Iran rising up and choosing their own leader. And we see in Madam Rajavi a leader who has been chosen by the people of Iran. She leads a popular movement, a movement of men and women, importantly, who want to take their own lives in their own hands and be able to make their own choices about how they will live, how they will worship, what they may think, and what they may do. And she has created a 10-point plan, which frankly I think took inspiration from the Bill of Rights in the American Constitution, because it protects all of the civil and political and religious rights of individuals within the country. And she wants to take that to the Iranian people. We're here to celebrate Women's History Month and the role of women in national politics. I can think of no more fitting representation of the victory of equal rights for women than to take a regime which has been the most misogynistic, anti-woman regime in modern history and replace it by one led by a woman. It is interesting because, you know, in the outside world, we hear lots of interest in what's going to happen in Iran. And some people are, you know, thinking, well, maybe we need to go back to a Shah. We need to go back to a king. And it's been interesting because Mr. Pahlavi has in fact been going around the world, around the country in the United States and elsewhere, and trying to draw crowds together. And I found it amusing that recently in Switzerland, I think he was able to pull together 200 people. Have we ever seen such a puny crowd to supposedly put a king again in place? I don't think the people of Iran want to go back to the Savak. I don't think they want to go back to the kind of torture, the kind of repression, the kind of thievery of the people's wealth that was represented in the Pahlavi family. I think they want a chance to be able to choose their own leader. And I believe that leader is with us here today. Next year, if we have this gathering, I hope that we will say that it was not just Assad who fled his country with his tail between his legs, but Khamenei and the mullahs who flee Tehran. Thank you very much.